Right, guys, so the next one we're going to be looking at is more the plots. Again, as usual with these, make sure you're looking through the two earlier videos because they're sequenced according to the textbook. Right, so Mary Queen of Scots and the plot against Elizabeth. I'm going to give you a bit of context. I'm going to be trying to link in what the potential questions might be. Okay, so please make sure you are taking notes as you go. Pause it at any point. This is the benefit of using the YouTube. You can pause, look through the slides, go back over what I've said. Okay, right, so we finished off with the last session with the papacy and the Counter-Reformation, and this is going to be a real threat to Elizabeth. Now, following the religious settlement, you've got the initial Puritan challenge. This one here is going to be more of a significant threat with the Catholics. They do take a bit of time, so we're waiting 10 years after the religious settlement, but then it does pose a significant threat. So we did look at the Counter-Reformation. This is the Catholic Church pushing back. Remember, the Pope is trying to tell English Catholics not to go to the Church of England. So the Pope's starting to get involved. And again, the papacy, this was on the last slide, but just have a read. This is just a bit of context to see who they are. They're in control of Rome. They are the leaders of Catholic Europe, and they are fighting back against the rise in Protestantism. Right, so the foreign situation, now it's Scotland, France, and Netherlands who we're mainly going to be focusing on, and Spain, of course, controls the Netherlands. That's where it's going to come into play. Today we'll look more at, well, in this session we'll look more at Scotland and France. Right, so just Mary Queen of Scots, have a look at this timeline, just have a look at how Mary is impacted throughout this. Remember, she is significantly Elizabeth's Catholic alternative, okay, a cousin. She's French, part French, Queen of Scotland, she becomes Queen of France, but that doesn't last too long, and then she comes back to Scotland. So we'll talk a little bit about that process. Right, so the Treaty of Edinburgh is the first one. Don't worry if you don't really know about this one. It literally just is where the Scottish Protestant lords defeat Mary's mother, Mary of Guise. Not a lot of Marys, I know. So Mary of Guise had been ruling Scotland on behalf of Mary Queen of Scots. Mary Queen of Scots is in France with her husband Francis. And Mary's family, led by her mother, Mary, is controlling Scotland, and she's a French Catholic. But the Scottish Protestant lords rise up and push Mary's mother out to establish a Protestant Scotland. This is very good for Elizabeth. She actually helps them, sends them resources to help them out, because a Protestant Scotland is far better for Elizabeth than not. The Scottish Protestant lords, they rebel as they didn't like the French and they didn't like Mary of Guise. Elizabeth's got to be careful. She doesn't want to be seen toppling a fellow monarch. But this will certainly help her internationally because, a friendly Scotland on their doorstep is far better in the face of the French threat. So Elizabeth sends this money. The rebellion ends with the Treaty of Edinburgh, and that basically means Mary, Queen of Scotland, gives up her claim to the English throne. However, importantly, Mary never actually signs this. It's the Scottish Protestant lords, so Mary claims that's not legit. So when Mary returns, she's queen, but the Protestant lords are in control. And again, Mary never approves the treaty and still maintains that she wants to be named as Elizabeth's heir. But Elizabeth didn't want to name her because that would divide England, because Mary's Catholic and Elizabeth's Protestant. Now, a little bit of context. Again, Mary's story is quite tragic. Mary marries Henry Lord Darnley. They have the son James, but it's not a great marriage. Lord Darnley actually murders one of Mary's favourites called Rizzio in front of her, so their marriage had fallen apart, and Mary had grown close to this man Bothwell, and then Darnley dies and Bothwell's seen as the main culprit. Elizabeth actually writes to her saying, stay out of this, you can't be involved in this. And Elizabeth, it says, you can't have any of this sticking to you, and Mary's just doesn't listen. She actually goes off and marries Bothwell, and the Scottish lords are outraged at this. How could she do that? So they rebel, and Mary is defeated. She's forced to abdicate, that means leave the throne, and she's imprisoned. She escapes and runs back to Elizabeth, seeking her help. Now, Elizabeth has have a look at the initial problems. So Elizabeth threats facing her, but Elizabeth's initial problems is what does she do with Mary? She keeps her in prison for the time being. I mean, her lords are saying, get rid of her, but Elizabeth just kind of keeps her under control for the time being. And then we get very shortly after, so you look at significance, that's 1568, and 1 year later you get the first plot. Think of those connections, guys. Very close, and that shows significance, it shows importance. So the Northern lords, they're unhappy that Protestant lords in the south are getting close to Elizabeth and are close to the court, and most of them are on the Privy Council. So the Northern lords are unhappy. They hold on to Catholicism. They basically want to take a stand, and this comes to head in 1569. Make sure you know the dates. So there's several factors. Again, earls want Catholicism. They've lost influence. Elizabeth's not naming an heir, and Mary Queen of Scots is now in England, so the Northern lords can simply put her on the throne, right? Think of that importance. Mary's there. She's used as a Catholic alternative. So their plan is to take control of Durham, march south, join with the Duke of Norfolk, who is going to marry Mary Queen of Scots, take over England and become Catholic. The Spanish are going to land in Hartlepool, suppress any rebel forces. And the Pope gives it its backing, right? Think of key features in these plots. Spain, Pope, Mary Queen of Scots, Duke of Norfolk, and the Dukes of Northumberland and Westmoreland. Significantly, this is when troops are on the ground. This is a direct threat to Elizabeth. You can pause it and read that graphic. I'm not going to go through it, but very briefly, Earls of Northumberland and Westmoreland take control of Durham. They hold a Catholic mass, but Elizabeth very quickly rallies her troops, turns around and crushes them. The Spanish don't land, and the rebellion ends. She deals with it very well, but again, importantly, it's crushed. Right, so significance of it, a very serious rebellion. Elizabeth starts seeing the Catholics as more of a threat, and treason laws become harsher. The Percy and Neville families in the north, you don't need to know too much about them, but their influence, so the powerful Catholic families in the north, their influence ends. Again, it will lead to more laws against the Catholics, and Elizabeth executes rebels who are Catholic. This is going to have a big impact, which will lead to the papal bull. You need to know this. The papal bull, the Pope is outraged that the Catholics are being executed, so the Pope issues the papal bull, which kicks Elizabeth and the Catholics out of the Roman Church. Now, this really splits the Catholic people. They now have to decide, who do they back, their Queen or the Pope. It really puts a question mark over the loyalty of the English Catholics. Again, this is directly issued, and this was 1570. Just another one, the papal bull. The papal bull also basically tells other Catholic powers, take out England, right? It really gives them the backing. You need to destroy England. So if there's any questions of the lead up to the Armada, the papal bull's a good starting point. Right, and very importantly, the Ridolfi plot happens a year later. That shows how much of an impact the papal bull was, because straight away there's another Catholic plot. Roberto Ridolfi, he's the Pope's spy. Again, get rid of Elizabeth, marry Norfolk to Mary Queen of Scots, with the backing of the Pope, the backing of the Spanish. However, it's discovered by William Cecil, and Norfolk is executed. Significant because it comes after the papal bull, shows Spain are a threat, and Elizabeth now needs to cozy up to the French, because remember, Elizabeth's foreign policy, if she's beefing with the Spanish, she's going to try and be friends with France to keep that power balanced. All right. Right, so then the laws that are passed in 1581 against Catholics, these are important to show how the Catholic threat has become more of a problem. Recusants are now fined £20, more of a bigger sum than before, and anyone who tries to convert somebody to Catholicism is now tried for treason, and they will be executed. Throckmorton plot, 1583. Remember, try and keep a couple of features for these. This is the French Duke of Guise. He is Mary, Queen of Scots' uncle. He wants to free Mary and restore Catholicism. Philip II actually backs this, and an English Catholic as well, who's going to be a go-between. The Pope approves. Now, Walsingham discovers it, so Walsingham is important in this one, and Throckmorton's arrested and executed. Now, significantly here, the French and the Spanish seem to be working together. Very dangerous for Elizabeth, so that's important about the Throckmorton plot. Catholic sympathisers are found. There's a fear of these Catholic sympathisers. There's a big crackdown. An Act of Parliament is signed in 1585. Excuse me. Is signed in 1585, which basically is the preservation of the monarch. So anyone who's been caught in dealing with anything against Elizabeth can be sentenced to death. And it showed the real potential threat of this Spanish and French alliance. Then you've got the Babington plot. So Babington, similar thing, Duke of Guise invade with 60,000 men, seems a lot, double check that, and put Mary on the throne. Philip and the Pope would support it. Babington was a Catholic with links to the French. Again, Mary's very involved, but Mary's being closely watched. And importantly, Walsingham actually cracks the code very early, but he wants to wait for clear evidence to execute Mary. And it's found, Mary's sentenced to death. Basically, relations are done at this point. Spain and England, the Treaty of Nonsuch was signed in 85, so they're already technically at war. Now, the government wanted to crush the Catholics. Arrests were made. Mary, Queen of Scots is going to be executed. And that will have a massive impact on Europe. Mary, Queen of Scots being an anointed monarch, and Catholics are going to be outraged. But I will say England are already on the road to war with Spain anyway, but it is one of these final moments that really leads to the Armada. Remember, many questions on this will all be about Anglo-Spanish relations. Think as well, the plots are a good example of Spain being the cause of the Anglo-Spanish relations declining, because Spain are trying to kill Elizabeth. So again, just be aware of how you're answering these questions. Lead up to the Armada, the Papal Bull, for example. So that's how the questions fall. The significance of the execution of Mary, Queen of Scots. Again, it's significant, the execution of a monarch, but also think this is quite late. The Armada is already pretty much ready to go. So just be aware of these things. Right, that leaves it there. I'll come with the next one next time. Right, cheers, guys.